there, and welcome to the Podcast Editors Mastermind Early Edition. That's right, we started a few seconds early today because we saw somebody was online and we're like, hey, we can join them. So Patrick, we know you're watching already. It's great to have you. Today's show, we're going to talk about portfolios, and this show will be partially powered by AI, and you'll know more about that as we get to the end of it. But we get to use the AI word today, so we're pretty happy about that. Before we dig into this, we'll do quick introductions. I'm Brian. You can find me at toptieraudio.com, and over here,
Jennifer Longworth of Bourbon Barrel Podcasting with my new logo behind me if you're watching live.
Yeah, it looks really pretty. In fact, for those of you that are listening to the podcast, of course, you can always join us live, or we do actually stream this to Facebook and YouTube. You can watch the video later if you really want to. Now, today we're going to talk about portfolios, and I think this is going to be fun. This is something that I don't really consider myself a super big expert in, so I did a little bit of research, but this is something that we see popping up from time to time in the Facebook groups, like how do I build a portfolio? Do I even need a portfolio? So we're going to talk about that. Did I remember to talk about who's not here, Jennifer? Did I forget that already?
You have forgotten that, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead. Tell us who's not
so
here.
In the spirit of being a total mess up, that's me. Unable to join us tonight are Carrie Caulfield, who you can find at carrie.land, and Daniel Abendroth, who you can find at rothmedia.audio. We love them.
And in the comments, we'll see all of you, we hope. So
yes,
it's not just
absolutely.
me and Brian.
As we go through this, we would love to have your comments, not just about, hey, we love you, although, Patrick, we love you. We're glad that you're here. If you have comments or questions, we would love to have that be part of this as well, because we want to make sure that this is valuable for you, but also that this features you, because we realize that neither of the two of us have all the answers. In fact, we were talking beforehand about how in this particular thing, there's really not one right answer. So it doesn't matter what we say, we can still be wrong. So congratulations to us. But onto portfolios. I thought probably the first thing to do is just talk about what is a portfolio. I think we all generally know, but we just wanted to make sure that we talk about that. So when we're talking about a portfolio, we're talking about some kind of demonstration of your work. If you've gone to a photographer's website, a lot of times they'll have a gallery, right? That's their portfolio. We're talking about that for podcast editors, and really, like what's a portfolio? How can you build a portfolio? What are some different strategies, as well as like what are some of the hurdles or the roadblocks? So my first question, I'm going to ask Jennifer. I'm going to put her on the spot since she said I could host. Jennifer, does a portfolio even matter for a podcast editor?
I say no. And the reason I say no is because people hire me without asking for examples of my work. So either they found it without asking, or they don't care. So my answer is no. Word of mouth and testimonials go farther.
Okay. And just for the sake of the conversation, I will take the opposing view of saying, I think they matter. I think that there are some people that do want a demonstration of what you can do. That's maybe not the clients that Jennifer's getting, or maybe because it's word of mouth, they've already heard a show that she's worked on. So I would actually posit that some people are hearing your unofficial portfolio before they ever hire you, right? They've heard a show that you've worked on or something like that. And so I actually think that being able to demonstrate the ability that you bring to the table, what you can do, matters. And I say this as a person who is not super happy with the portfolio that I have, but I think they matter. Jennifer says no, that's great. In the comments, if you disagree with either of us, you're certainly welcome to share that, or if you have a slightly different perspective, because we do want to feature your perspectives here as well. So I think a portfolio matters, but the question I think is why. And I think that comes to the whole comfort level, right? So if I go to, and I'm going to use a terrible example, but if I go to a copywriter's website, I'm going to want to see examples of what they've done and how their creative work is generating results. And a lot of times that's going to be not only how well is their website laid out, because if they're a copywriter, hello, you should have a good website, sort of what you do, but also how can I know that it delivers results? As a podcast editor, I know that I can deliver results for my clients, but my prospective clients want to know that, especially if they're not coming to me as a referral, right? And so I think that's why it matters. I think that's also, Jennifer, why your particular clients maybe don't value or value having a portfolio on your website quite as much. But those are my thoughts. Go ahead.
'Cause
You're going to say something.
I've never had someone come to me and go, "Oh my gosh, I loved your work on women changing leadership. I want to hire you."
Yeah, that's fair. So I mean, this is fun, right? We're taking the opposite approach, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to think through both because, in truth, I'm actually in the camp that it kind of matters, right? I don't think it matters all the time, but I
Right. I
think
mean,
it can.
it could matter. It
And-
also depends on like what style of show you're doing.
Say
I
more.
guess like okay, so I don't touch audio drama. If I were looking for an audio drama editor, I might want to know more about their sound design and
Okay.
how they use the music and the effects and all the things. I don't go there. If you want an audio drama editor, I'm going to send you to Steve Stewart to ask him to post it somewhere and get you an editor because I don't even know anybody who does that. So I and like narrative, I tried narrative once. I don't do narrative, but like those are more specific. It's a different skill set kind of
Right.
that you got to
Right.
be pickier about.
And I think that speaks a little bit to some of the challenges also for a podcast editor who's wanting to build a portfolio. Let's see, we've got some, we'll hit comments in a minute. And I'm going to, again, take the perspective that a portfolio matters. But as a person also who goes to websites that have a portfolio, and honestly, for an editor, it's really hard to work with a portfolio that's been presented. And I think that's because, so in my mind, the portfolio for a podcast editor or any kind of audio editor actually has different challenges than the portfolio for a graphic designer or a photographer or a videographer. And the reason is because when I go to a website of a photographer and I check out their gallery or their portfolio, it's a very fast thing, right? Because the entire picture is there at once. And the challenge for a podcast editor is like my portfolio page is, I think, 3 episodes of different shows that I've worked on. Like, if you want to hear examples of my work, these are things I've worked on. They're real shows. They're really shows I've worked on. People paid me for this work, but each one is 30 to 45 minutes long. And so I think that speaks to a specific challenge. And I think that there are some potential strategies to deal with that. But that to me is probably that and the lack of any kind of visual representation to go with it is kind of like the 2 big hurdles that I see for a podcast editor wanting to do that. And to Steve's point, as I'm jumping ahead, the sign of a great editor is you don't know they were there, right? And this I think is the third challenge, if I can go there, right, is I could post for you a show that was recorded perfectly and for which I did essentially nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But because it was a good recording, right? If I use the music recording industry, if I got great stems to start with, and all I did was a really quick mix and master, you'd never know that I'm actually an idiot and I have no idea what I'm doing. I just managed to not ruin it. Whereas if I get, I'm gonna throw Zoom under the bus for a second. If I get a Zoom recording with 3 people that can't string a sentence together to save their life, and I turn that into something that's coherent and listenable, that's actually a lot more work, but it's probably not going to get me a client because it's still going to smell. It's still going to sound
And
like a
sound.
Zoom recording. Yeah. And so I think that's where choosing what goes in your portfolio is super critical, right? I think it's not just whether or not you have one, but also choosing. I'm going to shut up because I've talked a lot. Jennifer, what would you like to say?
Well, my quote portfolio is just my current clients include ... on my website. So I know I think somebody said in the comments something about having a before and after. And I had one of those on my website. While it didn't matter. I mean, it was a challenge. And I'm still in the no one cares as far as mine.
Jennifer
don't
says no
know.
one cares. We're done.
Now we're done. I'm listening, and I see Patrick commented that he just thinks they sound fun.
Yeah, and they can. I think this is where I would go with these. It depends, right? If what
Right.
you have is an hour of two PhDs talking about a topic that you don't care about, right? Nothing
Mm-hmm.
against PhDs or a particular topic, but that might be a very disengaging portfolio, right? I don't know how you turn that into a sales pitch. Well, I've got some strategies that we might get to later. Were there any other comments that stood out to you, Jennifer?
There are a lot of comments.
There
Boom,
are.
boom, boom.
We
So
love you
let's
being
just,
in here.
let's just start. Steve says he's here to listen to both sides, so that's good. That's good.
Perfect.
Tim, for as long as I can remember, a demo reel has always been used. They're easy to create. What would be the downside to offer?
So that's a great point, right? So we're talking about portfolios as though they're a full episode, right? Or a series of full episodes. The reality is, with permission from the client, I suppose they don't have to be, right? Demo reel, a sizzle reel, that's definitely a possibility. That's actually something that I've considered and I had as a potential strategy, right? So,
Right.
and I think that also plays to Steve's. I think it's Steve who typically talks about having a before and after. I think Daniel may have written something in the notes, knowing that he wasn't able to be here to just to give us something smart to say. That demo reel could potentially have, I don't know how to build one, right? I think about like what a radio station might put together. Maybe it's something like that with sound effects and all that stuff, but then also some before and afters. I think that could be a really powerful thing. Yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of a demo, maybe even more than I like a portfolio page. I don't know. What do you think, Jennifer?
Yeah. If it's really like succinct, I guess, or like to the point,
Right.
instead of listening to two talking heads for an hour to see that you made them sound less boring. I don't know. Or not.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, demo reel's a great idea. I think I don't know that there is a downside other than just, especially if you're talking about before and after, making sure that you're not throwing your client under the bus and revealing that they actually can't string a sentence together to save their lives. That's always kind of the moral hurdle for me, is to go, my commitment to my clients is always to leave the garbage on the cutting room floor. I really feel weird about putting it back into a demo reel.
Yeah. So Patrick's asking lots of questions. So, the most recent one, you couldn't have demos in a portfolio.
I think you absolutely could. That's actually something that we can talk about, I think, as we go a little bit further into this. I was thinking full episodes. Demos or a demo reel is absolutely, I think, an option to do that. And I think also, in fact, when we asked this on Facebook, because we asked this in the Podcast Editors Mastermind Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/Podcast Editors Mastermind, in case you're not part of it. Yeah, I know it flows right off the tongue. Or you can just go to our website and we'll help you get there. But one of those things was, I think Tim in the group actually shared a demo reel that he had put together on his website. And that's definitely an option. In his case, he just saved some audio to SoundCloud, and that was his demo reel right there. But yeah, I think that's definitely an option.
Okay, Patrick also says, as a contractor, I need to figure out what's involved in using my work as samples. There's a network host guest. Do I need permission from all parties or no?
Yeah, so I think this is where I'd put on my not a lawyer hat, and just my first question would be, is there anything in the contract that specifies one way or the other? And if you have specified in your contract that you're able to do that, then I think the answer would be yes. How far that goes, I don't know. If the contract says no, we have a non-disclosure in place, or we don't reveal work product that's not like whatever that might be, then the answer would be no. If it's not, I think it's a conversation. And maybe you're able to go to them and go, hey, because I think you've been, I know, Patrick, you've been a few months now with what I think is probably your first client. Maybe you just go to them and say, hey, are you happy with my work? I'd love to find more clients like you. Could I put together a demo reel or put together something based on the work that I've done for you to highlight your show? And also maybe just let them know, hey, I'll let you listen to it first. Make sure that I'm not putting anything out that you don't want to go out. But, I'd like to highlight your show. I love working on your show. I'd like more clients. And maybe there's a way that, I hate to use the word spin, but maybe there's a way you can frame that up to make that valuable for them. That's actually what I did to get permission to put the clients on my portfolio page is, hey, do you mind if I feature you on my website? My
Okay.
contract says I can do this, but I also don't want to break the relational part of it because I can manage to a contract, but I think the relationship is the more important thing to maintain, right? And if they say, no, I'm not comfortable with that, I don't want to go back to them and say, well, the contract says I can, so I'm just going to do it, right? I want to honor them because they're valuable people. And honestly, if I don't, they won't be a client for a very long time. I mean, not trying to be like super pragmatic, but yeah, they'll let me go, right?
Okay, so I want to hit Jesse's comment because he says what I'm kind of thinking. Prospects are generally looking to see that others have paid you to do the work. Social proof, links to your work should be enough, which is kind of what I have on my website. Is like, here are some shows I worked on. Shows that people have paid me to do this. Well,
Yeah.
presumably have paid me. Should have paid me. We're
You
supposed
build
to
them
have
whether they
paid
paid you or not. Yeah.
I don't think any of the non-payers are on the website, but
So that's interesting, and I appreciate you putting that up, Jesse, because I never really thought about just linking to the work being enough. I've always wanted to actually include the episode on the website, but yeah, that's I think another viable strategy, right? As long as you have permission to share that you work on the show, which you probably do, linking there, I think that would be great. And also, if I think about SEO and the value for the client, it points them right there, right? If somebody's coming to check you out, you're actually pointing people to that client's website, whether they are the ideal audience or not. Maybe there's a connection to be made there. So, yeah, maybe that's also a benefit for them.
yeah, true.
Any other comments we need to hit?
Patrick also said, I think you could just describe what the product was before giving the after, so you could have a different category of samples.
I love that. So, and this is where my crazy brain goes a little bit nuts, because when you say describe it, I'm thinking like putting up a picture of a dumpster fire, right? I know that's not
That's
what you
what some
mean.
of them are, but
Yeah, I think that's good. I don't know. Jennifer, what do you think?
I had a guy say it 11 times in a row once, and then I cut that out, and it sounded a lot better. I don't want to like put that original on because he sounded so horrible. But I could say like, hey, this guy said it 11 times in a row before I cut it to one.
One thing I've seen done, and this is sort of like an portfolio, and I don't remember who it was, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't tell this person's name, but they basically made a demo reel of only the things that got cut.
Oh, wow.
So it was like 2 minutes of silly music with yeah, so and then it was done really, really well. And I do wonder, as long as you're not throwing somebody under the bus, if that might be funny. I know that Mike Wilkerson does that for his clients on their first edit. He sends them what was cut.
Wow.
So they recognize the value of what they're doing. I don't believe he publishes it. He's not the person that I had in mind, but maybe something there as with the anti-demo reel, right? This is what's on the floor. Yeah, the Mike Wilkerson Amara reel.
Oh, Patrick says he's done that before too.
Have you? So that's awesome. I'm hoping you're talking about the silly music, because that's just, I've never done that, but I've always wanted to, because it really, to me as an editor, it's really funny when I sit down and I listen to a minute and a half of over, I don't know,
Is
circus
that
music
still
or something.
our like official intro music? Remember when we first started this
Yeah.
podcast? Is
Yeah.
that still like if someone
Our
listens
intro
to
music
this?
is ums and uhs from Daniel, you, and me, and
Hey,
Carrie,
Carrie. Yeah.
and a couple of Yeti sounds that I downloaded from a stock music place and something else. Yeah, that's our very short Umara reel from an episode that had a lot more ums in it than
Yes.
what made it into the intro. Yeah.
I was like, I never go back and listen to this podcast. I'm just on it, and I know what happens here. I'm like, are we still even using that?
So I think, what do we have? We got something from Steve. Listening to the have to listen to the intro. Yeah, I bet you do get triggered by that. Well, the good news, Steve, it's also the outro. So if you just wait till the podcast comes out and you listen all the way to the end, you can hear it twice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm wondering, we've talked about building a portfolio as though it's a thing that goes on your website, right?
Right.
But maybe that's not the only option.
Okay.
So I think that's an option. And honestly, that would be my preferred option, right? I want to send people to my website, have all the things there. But let's be honest, if you are working on a platform like Fiverr or Upwork or some other marketplace, that body of work that you've worked on, so long as it's available for other people to see, that can be your portfolio, right? And that's a living, breathing list of all the stuff that you've done.
I didn't
think-
even know that was a thing.
I think the other thing, especially for editors like you and me, Jennifer, would be if we're on a service like Podchaser, making sure that we're credited for all the work that we've done, right? I think Steve brought that up as an option where he just points people to Podchaser and said, hey, this, if you want to see what I can do, this is where it goes. I actually took Steve's idea and I updated my website. So I've got 3 episodes. And then basically, if you want more, go here. And it lists everything I've done in Podchaser. Now, the unfortunate thing about Podchaser is it's all the things I've done. So it's, yeah, he's got a link. Let's show Steve's link. Yeah, stevestewart.me/Podchaser. The unfortunate thing about that is when it goes there, as a person who co-hosts a couple of shows, has hosted a couple of shows that have gone away, has been a guest on a number of shows, and also has edited across a variety of shows, I have probably 1,500 credits.
Wow.
And not all of them are episodes that I've edited, right? So, like, if I hosted a show and I edited the show, I've credited myself twice. And so what I haven't figured out is how to go to just the editing part. But that is a way that you can show your body of work for sure. The other thing, and whether it's on a website or not, I think that sizzle reel or that demo reel is a viable option, right? That's something that I want to do. High-speed video of you doing work. Oh, I love that, Patrick. I have done those for Instagram. I have not put one of those on my website. So for those that are watching or listening and don't know what we're talking about, I have on occasion set my iPhone on the desk, pointed at my monitor, and set it to record a time lapse. So it takes a snapshot every however often it does. And I'll record 30 minutes of me working on an episode. And when you play it back, it takes like 90 seconds. And it's just all this scrolling around, cutting, moving, pasting stuff. I had never thought about that as a portfolio. There's no sound with it, excuse me, but you could certainly put sound under it in a video editing program, but it wouldn't be what you're actually editing, which also means you're not throwing any clients under the bus. I love that, Patrick. That was a great reminder. And I'm right. I speak the truth. I'm not sure what we're talking about, but I'm glad Steve likes what I said. I love that.
Brian is right. He speaks the truth, said Steve Stewart. You did. Oh.
Patrick's idea is fantastic. Yeah. For those that are watching, you can, if there are other people watching besides just Steve and Patrick, if you want to hop in the comments, you're welcome to do that. Whether you have questions or comments, we would love to hear from you. And for those that are watching later or listening later, and if you want to reach out to us, just email us, info@podcasteditorsmastermind.com. We'd love to hear from you on that, because this, I think, is one of those things that can potentially set us apart. And I think my implementation currently is not. And so I'm taking this as a learner as much as a person who's brainstormed about this. Jennifer, I'm going to shut up again because I've been talking a lot and I don't like it when that happens.
Well, I'm going to throw it to Daniel, who's not here, but one of his comments in our notes was to include client testimonials in your portfolio. Have clients record testimonials and turn them into audiograms for the website.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Which goes on like to what I was saying, that and what Jesse was saying, more like the social proof and the referrals or.
Yeah, so maybe we've been too focused on calling it a portfolio page. Maybe it's a why should you hire me and how can I prove to you that I can actually do what I can do?
I like that.
I don't think that's going to fit in a website header bar, so we'll probably need to figure out a different word. Jennifer,
Yeah.
can you do that for us?
I could type that into Chat GPT, drink and ask.
Yeah. So now powered by AI already, Jennifer is going to generate for us a website title, hopefully. So yeah, basically the "Why should you hire me" page. I love that because it's the portfolio, it's social proof, testimonials potentially, sizzle reel or demo reel potentially, list links to all the things you've done.
I like calling it the "Why should you hire me" page.
Yeah, I think I might
Why do you
change
need
mine.
something?
All because of something that Daniel typed into something, and I never read it that way until you did.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So I think the question I would have for those that are joining us in the chat, have you heard anything so far that you think you might implement? And if so, how are you planning to do that? For me, I'm planning to change mine to something more like a "Why should you hire me" page. And I'm probably going to go for the testimonials before I do a demo reel. I don't know. Jennifer, what about you?
Agreed. The only thing about my website is that I pay somebody to update it for me, and I don't want to pay them. So I'll have to figure out something that doesn't involve updating my website, like doing a time-lapse video for a reel somewhere.
Time-lapse video of a reel. Yeah, I love that. Steve also mentioned, and I hadn't thought about this, supplying a PDF download of your portfolio to prospects or on your website is high-level professionalism. I don't have a PDF of mine. Jennifer, do you have a PDF of yours?
I have an ebook, but it's about how to start a podcast. It's not about my portfolio.
Yeah. So here's another thing so what I send prospective clients is a series of 8 questions to think through before you hire a podcast editor. And they work whether you're going to hire me or not. But it's basically just helping them start thinking about, like, what does success look like? Why am I doing this? What's my budget? That's what I send. I like the idea also of having a PDF portfolio or something like that. I think
How do
that's
you
really...
PDF audio?
Well, you wouldn't PDF audio, but you can build links in, right? You can put a click here button. So if you go to Canva, right, you create an element,
right,
you
one of
attach a
those
link to it.
fancy terms.
Let's see. I'm not sure what order to take
Okay,
these.
so just do it in the order in which they came. Tim
Yeah.
says, for me, I like to be able to showcase my recording, editing, and original theme music production in a short 5 to 7 minute demo. Well, you're doing a lot of things there, Tim.
Yeah, and I think that's the one that we had on the Facebook group from ProTech Music, where he had the demo reel, or the demo was loaded into SoundCloud and had a couple of different things there. It was really, really, really well done. So yeah, I think that's a good one.
Patrick says, I have a media kit PDF for my podcast and bio, etc.
Yeah, so I have one. I don't have a PDF portfolio. Patrick, you can beat me to the punch on this one for sure.
And Jesse says, I shy away from "Why should you hire me" and focus more on "How can I help you?" and don't start with saving them time. They already know that.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add to Jesse's. He's dropping the mic as usual. I love that. So Jesse,
Yeah.
would you literally call it the "What can I help you" page, or would you call it something else? Oh, and there's the link to Tim. Yes.
protechmusic.com/examples. Thank you, Tim.
And Jennifer remembering that we're on video, but we publish audio. We will have links to all this stuff in the episode notes, but it's live. It's happening now. And Jennifer told me to
Brian's
host
like, haha, that's a funny comment. I'm like, you got to read it. They don't know later.
Yeah, so if you want an example of how not to host a show, just watch us every couple of weeks and see what I do.
Jesse comes back and says, anything like that can work. It might depend on your audience.
Oh, there you go.
Just like everything else in podcasting, right?
Yeah, it depends. Well, I mean, that's most everything in life, right?
Right.
So we have the sizzle reel, we have the testimonials. I'm not sure where to go from here, Jennifer. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I'd never considered the client testimonials page being part of my portfolio.
I hadn't
But
either.
I have heard of, I think I took some sort of sales training once when they were talking about getting video testimonials of your clients and like calling them on a Zoom call and recording the two of you talking about it together
Okay.
and then using that for reels and stuff. But I mean, I've never tried that either. I just have like little quotes. My favorite testimonial I have is, "We believe in God because Jennifer can work miracles."
That's awesome.
It was a Christian podcast, but that's what they said about me.
Nice. And
Jesse
yeah,
says case studies work well too if you have a bigger story to tell.
yeah. So I think this one could be really powerful, especially with client permission, right? So whether you're working on a storytelling show and talking people through the process of how you developed the storyline and how you worked with the client, this could also be, this was the audio we started with. This is how we approached the repair. This was the thought process that went into the editing, and then sort of the before and after. I think that could be really powerful as well. That's one that makes me personally a little bit uncomfortable because I feel like I'm kind of airing the client's dirty laundry if we talk about the challenges. So I would tread lightly on a personal level. But hey, case studies are a big deal, right? And people don't come to you because they don't have a problem, right? Nobody comes to a podcast editor and says, "I'd like for you to edit for me because I've got everything working perfectly and I don't need anything to change," right?
Right. Right. Patrick says, I mean, really, your entire website could kind of be considered your portfolio. It serves lots of purposes, I suppose.
It does, yeah.
So have a website, people. Have a website.
Yeah, I think this is where Carrie would normally insert her. If you don't have a website, go get a Google domain and set up the basic Google. Well, I guess Google doesn't do domains anymore.
GoDaddy.
Yeah, set up your basic domain and your basic website. Mine's on WordPress. Jennifer's is on WordPress. It doesn't have to be, right?
I don't know where mine is. Somebody else does it. Maybe it's
well,
on WordPress.
I'm talking
It
about
used
the
to be on
platform.
WordPress. It used
Yeah.
to be on WordPress.
Oh,
I don't know if
maybe
it
it's
is
not.
anymore. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, right?
No.
It can be a one-page website if that's what you need. And if what you have is nothing, that will probably be better than what you have.
Jesse says how you've helped improve their audio through equipment and training. I guess going back into case
Yeah.
studies and testimonials and stuff.
Yeah, especially so, Jennifer. This would be great for you with launch clients, right? Because you're doing a lot of launches right now. This could be huge because then you can demonstrate that you're not giving the same advice to every person, right? A solo show doesn't necessarily get the same equipment list as a co-hosted in-person show versus a co-hosted over the internet show.
They get a little bit different guidance, yes.
Yeah, I mean, an in-person show, you're probably going to get them an interface, a proper interface, and you might give them the same microphones, but you're not going to say, "Hey, plug in 2 USB mics and go to town."
No, I don't tell them that.
No, 'cause
They
you know
tried
better.
That doesn't work.
I love that. You know, we started talking about portfolios. Now we're just talking about all the things I should have on my website.
Oh, is that what these little notes are? Brian's taking notes in
Oh,
the
yeah.
shared Google Docs, and I'm like, what's he doing? He's taking
Yeah, I'm
notes.
taking notes of all the things that I'm telling myself I might do after we get done because, like I said at the beginning, we didn't come into this thinking we were experts, right? We're bringing what we've got, and some of you have really brought something to the table tonight as we've been recording this live. This has been great. What else about portfolios? What are we not thinking about? Are there any pitfalls to having a portfolio?
I don't think there would be a pitfall unless you had someone who got mad about you throwing them under the bus in it. So get permission if you're going to do before and afters, I guess. But I don't see what, like, from a client-facing perspective or whatever.
I think the only pitfall that I see would be, and we talked about this with, he has the sparkly jacket. I can't remember his name right now.
Tom Kelly.
Tom Kelly. We talked with him about that, where when he started his editing his first show or a few shows, they were so bad, the audio quality was so bad, even after he got done, that he didn't want them to go on to any kind of portfolio. So I think just being careful what you choose to go on your portfolio can be a really big deal. That's something with a couple of clients that I have on my portfolio that I had to wait until I had an episode that I was comfortable putting on my portfolio.
Jesse says pitfalls to before and after is you could attract clients with unrealistic expectations or wanting to deliver low quality audio so you can spend a year working on it.
Yes, that's something to be careful about. I would never publish anything where I'm showing that I took out goat sounds from an episode. It happened, right? But I'm not gonna create that expectation. That is certainly something to be careful with.
The photographer who decided to document her whole episode by having tick, tick, tick throughout the whole thing every time the flash went off. Yeah, I don't want to encourage people to do that.
Yeah, or maybe when you've got a metronome going off in a band
contest.
Jennifer has some skills with metronomes. Let's hit Steve's comments. So Steve's comment is that what he's gathering is that portfolios don't matter as much as having a website, a media kit, and or testimonials and client recommendations. I think for the bulk of us, I would agree with you, Steve. I think the only time when a portfolio might be more important than testimonials or recommendations might be when you're not getting referrals, when it's somebody coming and saying, hey, I need to check you out and I don't have any other way to do that. But I don't think that's
Patrick
most of us.
says he thinks it's obviously probably more valuable or worth the time and effort if you're a new editor needing clients, which is you're not.
Yeah. Or if you're an editor that's been doing this for a few years and you found your client base declining over the last year as multiple shows let themselves go, and you're currently working on brand strategy.
Do we know someone like that?
we know one person like that, and honestly, he's kind of not moving very fast, but he's been very thankful for all the help he's gotten so far. And that's me.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like it's totally useless even anyway, but yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Jennifer, anything else we need to hit on portfolios? We've gotten all of the thoughts that I had and several that I didn't have.
Yeah, and several Daniel had. So thanks for being with us in spirit, Daniel.
Yeah. For those that have commented, we're very thankful. We're now going to move on to the Powered by AI portion of this show. Jennifer, do you want to explain what's happening and why?
Well, as you may or may not realize, if you've listened to the show for any amount of time, we typically, when we get to this point, we go to our Pod Decks question of the day. We have been through the deck and we're getting repeats and having to throw out questions because they're not appropriate and all the things. So we have decided to come up with the Chat GPT question of the day instead, powered by AI.
So, if you are currently drinking a water like I am, this is your chance to take a drink because we said AI and Chat GPT. Feels so good. And then Jennifer's the Chat GPT maven, so she's gonna tell us what our question is.
Well, I said to Chat GPT, give me a random question, and here's the question. What would you do if you found yourself in possession of a mysterious antique key with no idea what it unlocks?
So, for those of you joining us live, we're interested in what you would do, especially if you host a show about creepy and mysterious things. I don't host one of those shows, but I'm thinking that I would probably have to take that key and put it in a wooden case with velvet lining and very carefully close the clasp and put it on a shelf where I could view it and be interested in it. And if I ever got the courage, maybe start walking around and take the key very carefully out of the wooden case with velvet lining and stick it into various locks until I find out what it opens. And then probably run away screaming, realizing that I wouldn't want to see what's behind that door anyway. Jennifer?
My daughter's favorite movie is Coraline, so that's the key that went to my head, first of all, and it took her to a creepy other dimension. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know. She ended up throwing it into a well. But in reality, I'd probably throw it in a drawer with all the extra keys and forget about it.
Nice. Jesse says that he would sell it on eBay as a lost relic. Props to Jesse. I wish I would have thought of that one. That one's great.
Yours wasn't bad.
Well, I mean, I just kind of made it up on the fly. I'm not sure that's actually what I would do. So I think with that, junk drawer. Thanks, Patrick. Patrick's going to throw it in the junk drawer. I think with that, we'll go ahead and close this episode down. We're done a few minutes early, but our commitment to you is we will try to bring as much value as we can and then go away once we're not doing that anymore. And I feel like we've crossed that threshold. We could talk about thresholds and how they got their name, but that's not the purpose of this show. So for those of
Well,
you that
you
joined
know,
us,
they ask how long a podcast should be, right? You get
Yeah,
this
about-
question all the time.
2 minutes shorter than ours, right?
No, as long as it takes us to tell the story, not a moment longer nor shorter.
Yes. So, for those of you that joined us live, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here. Those of you in the comments, we appreciate your questions and your suggestions. Great stuff coming out of the comments section. Really glad that you could be here. If you're joining us later, listening, we're glad that you could do that. You can always join us live. We would love to have you here. Jennifer, if somebody wants to be a guest on the show or has a suggestion for a topic that we should cover, what would they do?
They could go to podcasteditormastermind.com, click Be a Guest, or find us in the Facebooks. Because, I mean, this topic came out of the Facebook chat. I mean, basically, right?
Yeah,
People
that's exactly
had been-
where it came from.
Asking in the Podcast Editor Mastermind group.
Yeah, so behind the scenes, we do have a running list of possible topics. This was one, but because somebody asked, that's why we talked about it.
Yeah.
We want this show to be valuable to you right now as much as we possibly can. With that, I'm Brian Itzbinger. If you want to, you can find me at toptieraudio.com and you can check out my portfolio there. Jennifer?
I'm Jennifer Longworth. You can find me at bourbonbarrelpodcasting.com.
For those that are wondering, both Daniel and Carrie were not able to join us tonight. Daniel is at rothmedia.audio and Carrie is at carrie.land. And we would love it if you would check them out as well. If you haven't already subscribed to the show, podcasteditorsmastermind.com is the place for all of that. We love you, and we're really glad that you were here. And now I'm going to try to hang up. So bye. Thank you very much.